So I was talking to one of my friend who works at Google as well, and we were just chatting about the cloud engineer role, the AI, and all those things. And one topic that came up is like when we were getting started. So he transitioned from mainframe background to cloud engineering background, and he was talking like when I was starting out, then there were a lot of services that I have to skim through, and I wanted to become a cloud infra engineer or a DevOps engineer. I didn't have a proper roadmap of which services to learn, so I was learning BigQuery as well, Dataproc as well, and all the data related services as well. So I thought it would be a good idea to just make a video where I share as a cloud engineer, no matter you are an infra engineer or a data engineer, network engineer, security engineer, or an AI ML engineer, what are some of the core services or the top services that you should learn for your particular role? So in this video, I'm going to talk about that because if you see Google Cloud has like more than 150 plus services, AWS more than 250, 300 plus services, Azure also has 200 plus services. So it's very easy to get overwhelmed and not know which services to learn first if you're just getting started. And in this video, I'm just going to clear out some of the confusion. Now I have divided this video in such a way that it will be relevant for DevOps engineer or infra engineer, data engineer, network engineer, security engineer, and AI/ML engineer who are looking to work in these particular roles in cloud. And you'll see two things, which is first I'll list the core services or the basic services that you should definitely know as that particular role, maybe as a network engineer. And then what are some of the things that once you are comfortable with these basic services, then you can dive into them, right? So it might be some concepts, for example, for network engineer, it might be, something advanced like using tools like Wireshark, etc. But you don't have to learn that if you're just starting out, but I've just listed them out so that you will know that, okay, once I've covered these basic services as a network engineer or a cloud infra engineer, then okay, these are the next steps that I have to do. So let's get started and dive right into it. Okay, so as you can see here, I'll cover the cloud and DevOps engineer, network engineer, data engineer, AI ML engineer, and security engineer. Now, before I do that, there are some of the fundamentals that everyone should know who is starting out with cloud, right? So, for example, that can be service model. What is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service, right? And then what are availability zones, regions? What do we mean by high availability and disaster recovery? What is shared responsibility model? How do we do, or not how do we do, but what is cost optimization? What does compliance and governance means? What are serverless or edge computing? So these are some of the terms that you should know. You don't have to dive much deeper into it, but you should just know about them so that you can relate once you are learning about cloud, because these terms are very relevant in no matter which role you are in. Maybe you will be working as a data engineer or a DevOps engineer. These terms will come in no matter what your role is. So that's why these are some of the things that you should definitely know about when starting out. And then these are some of the core services. Again, no matter what your role, you should definitely know the basics of these. So I just categorize these 5 services because these consist of compute, networking, storage, and databases, right? So you can see for compute, it is compute engine. In AWS, it is EC2. Now, one thing you can see is I'm taking the icons of Google Cloud, right? And I'm taking Google Cloud as a primary example. But in the later part of the video, I'll show a sheet where you can just go and then compare. For example, compute engine translates to EC2 or Azure virtual machine in Azure world. Cloud storage, cloud storage is S3 bucket or Azure blob storage in the Azure world, right? So I'll share that sheet or that document as well at the end, but this video primarily will be, I'll be taking example of Google Cloud Services. So these are the core services that everyone should know, because cloud IAM will, definitely be needed everywhere. For example, you are working on a project and then you have to give access to someone else. So cloud IAM, basically you can divide it into 2 parts, user access and the system access. So user access, you can just take their email ID. System access, you can just create something called service account in Google Cloud and then use that for system to system communication. Compute engine, again, it's the most basic ones in cloud, which is you just spin up a VM, attach some disks, persistent disks with it, run an application and see how does that entire thing look like. Now, you'll not be able to spin up compute engine without any virtual private cloud. So dive deeper into that. What are networks? What are subnets? What are firewalls, etc. Right? And then Cloud SQL, it's a database, MySQL or Postgres or SQL Server. You can choose the database engine there, but you can dive deeper into that as well. Check how the connectivity works from maybe any compute, right? In this case, compute engine to Cloud SQL. And then cloud storage, I think we can't proceed in cloud without talking about object storage, right? So cloud storage is one of them where you store all your images, files, videos, etc. And you should definitely learn about that. So these are the core services that everyone, no matter whether you are a data engineer, you are a network engineer, you are a DevOps or infra engineer, you should definitely know about these core services. Now, once you're done with these, let me dive deeper into the specific job roles, right? Now, before that, I think there's just a simple, architecture that I created using all those core services, right? So you have the compute engines running inside a VPC, you have Cloud SQL, you have cloud storage, and then there's a user just accessing it. So it's a very simple web application. Now, once you have a hold of or a basic of all these services, you can go ahead and then implement something like this just to get a feel of how does it look like, right? Now, once you're through this, let's dive into a certain role-specific services that you should know. Now, starting with infra and DevOps engineer, you should definitely know GKE in Google Cloud, right? Or EKS in AWS, AKS or Azure Kubernetes Service in Azure. Now, because DevOps engineer, I think Kubernetes has penetrated across all the organizations. If not all, then most of the organization. And this is one thing which is used by almost everyone to run their applications, right? So learn about GKE, how to deploy your applications, how to spin it up, what are the controls that you get. For example, in GKE, you have something called data plane v2, which enables Cilium in the backend, which is a container network interface, so that you can have those good magic of eBPF, etc. Right? It has other controls as well to enable some CSI drivers for NFS and all these things as well. But try to see what things you can tweak, etc. Then logging and monitoring is one thing which everyone should know. I've put it in infra and DevOps engineer, but as a data engineer also, you have to go in logs and check why something didn't come up or what is the particular error there. So logging monitoring is very important, and I think that is the base, because whenever a troubleshooting exercise is happening, the first thing, at least I do, which is, hey, where are the logs, right? And what kind of logs do I need? So if it is a network problem, I go into the maybe log of cloud network, VPC flow logs, etc. So learn about how to use logging monitoring. You might be using some other tools like Splunk, etc. But yeah, you should know a tool where you can troubleshoot when issues arise. And then another one I listed is artifact registry. It can be something else in other clouds, but what it does is it is used to store images, container images, and you can't deploy anything in Kubernetes without an image. So there's just one. You can use some third party like JFrog, etc. as well. Harbor is another famous one. But I just want to give you a gist of what services in cloud you should learn if you are starting as an infra and DevOps engineer. Now, once you're done with it, you can dive deeper. You should know a version control system. You should know about what is microservices patterns, then CI/CD tools like Jenkins, Argo CD, then infrastructure as code like Terraform, Pulumi, etc. And then some basics of networking and operating system. Now, I've covered the entire cloud and DevOps engineer roadmap, for which you can find the link of on the top side. You can follow that guide. But if you're just starting with cloud, these, along with the core services that I mentioned, is the bare minimum as a DevOps engineer you should learn, right? And once you're done, then you can dive deeper. So moving on to the next role, which is a network engineer. Now, network engineer, I feel, is one of the most complex and in-demand skills in cloud as well, because it is very, it consists of a lot of things related to networking, right? So you will have to know a little bit about on-prem systems, then how do you connect to cloud, etc. Now again, I'm taking Google Cloud as an example here, but Cloud Interconnect is direct connect in AWS. Then Network Connectivity Center is, I think, AWS Transit Gateway, etc. Something like that, right? But as I mentioned, I'll share that sheet in the back end of the video as well. So starting with Cloud Interconnect, this is used for connecting your on-premise system to your Google Cloud. Now, when I say cloud interconnect, I've covered partner interconnect, dedicated interconnect, and cross-cloud interconnect, which is helpful in connecting AWS, Azure with Google Cloud. It is one of the most interesting ones that I found, which is you can connect multiple clouds if you are running multi-cloud setup. Cloud load balancing, another important one, because I don't think so any web application works without cloud load balancer, but because you need to have users get into your application, right? So when I say cloud load balancing, I'm talking about L7, L4 load balancers, like application load balancer, network load balancer, regional, global, internal, all of them, right? Network connectivity center is, you will have a hub and then you'll connect multiple spokes, right? The spokes can be VPCs, your on-prem systems, your other clouds, etc. So this is one of the very good things which contains the sprawl that happens if you are using VPC peering, etc. But this is very good service, I find, because it removes a lot of those maintenance and overhead issues which comes with other services like VPC peering, etc. Cloud VPN is another important one where you connect to VPCs using something called a VPN, right? Now, as a network engineer, these are the 4 bare minimum you should know. Now, once you're done with these, below are, you can see the other services and some of the concepts. So you should know subnetting, what are CIDRs, masking, etc. What is BGP, border gateway protocol, cloud routers, firewalls, next generation firewalls, OSI TCP model. I think this is the basic one which we learn in college. What is peering, cloud natting, then cloud DNS, cloud armor, network intelligence center. How do you do hybrid cloud connectivity? What are CDNs or content delivery network? And then you should know utilities like TCP dump, etc. And then analyze them with Wireshark. Now, these are some of the advanced things. You don't have to dive into them when you're starting out. But as a network engineer, if you're transitioning as a network engineer, you should know the above 4 things along with the core services. And then once you're good with them, you have implemented something, dive deeper into all these things as well. Now, moving on to the next one, which is data engineering, right? And I think this is very in demand right now as well. And Google Cloud is known for its data related services. So you'll find a lot of data related services. But if you're starting out, BigQuery is, I think, a no-brainer because it's a serverless warehouse database, and it's equivalent to Redshift in AWS. But BigQuery, it's another, I think, the differentiated services in Google Cloud. You should definitely learn about that. Then Dataflow, which is used for processing streaming or batch jobs. And then Dataproc, which is equivalent to Elastic MapReduce in AWS, where you run your Hadoop systems, etc. And then Cloud Composer is you can run your DAGs. It's like implementation of Apache Airflow. But these are the 4 services that you should know as a data engineer, and then along with the core services. But once you're done with it, you definitely should know about these concepts and services, right? Like what is data transformation, data processing, data modeling, data quality, data security, and all these concepts, words, etc., right? So then, you should know about other services like Cloud Bigtable, Dataplex, Cloud Data Fusion, how to build pipelines, ETL pipelines, what is Cloud PubSub, etc. Now, PubSub is again a basic service, but I kept it here. But you should know about PubSub as well, because I think whenever you are building the ETL pipeline, PubSub is almost every time in that particular pipeline. So you should definitely learn about PubSub. Now, moving on to the next one, which is AI/ML engineer. These are some of the things that I listed here, but we know that it's a very vast field. But if you're starting out in cloud, you should definitely know Vertex AI. When I say Vertex AI, I'm talking about all its related features as well, like Vertex AI feature store, Vertex AI training, Vertex AI pipelines, etc. Right? Because I think this is one-stop shop for all your AI/ML needs in Google Cloud, right? And there are some APIs like Cloud Vision API, speech to text, text to speech API, and Cloud Natural Language API, etc. So you should learn about those APIs as well, because you'll definitely use them in your day-to-day job. Now, once you're done with those basic services, you should know about what is feature engineering, what is model training, what is hyperparameter tuning. GenAI, I think that's the most common one right now, so you should definitely know about that. And then how to do ML ops, etc. So, but starting out, you should know about these APIs plus Vertex AI, and then you can dive into all the other features or services in this AI/ML world. Now, I just wanted to show a small architecture that you can try out when you're starting out as a AI/ML engineer or data engineer, because I feel that data, AI, they go hand in hand, right? So you can try this one. I'll leave a link of this one in the description below as well. But what you can see here is we are building a ML vision analytics solution here using Dataflow, which is one of the data services, and Cloud Vision API, right? So basically there are three stages: ingest and trigger, then process, and store and analyze, right? So what this particular thing is doing is whenever a client uploads something in Google Cloud Storage, a PubSub, so there's event driven, right? And a PubSub notification sends a request to Dataflow, and then which triggers Cloud Vision API, and then it fetches the image, then annotates it, sends back to Dataflow, and then it is stored in BigQuery, the annotation which you can use for storage and analysis, etc. Right? So this is a very simple thing which you can try out when starting out with data and AI in Google Cloud. And as I mentioned, I will leave a link of this particular architecture in the description below. But do try this. And the whole idea of all these services that I'm mentioning as a network engineer, as a DevOps engineer, as a cloud engineer, as a data engineer, and AI/ML engineer, is that you learn them one by one, and then build something using the combination of those services, because in cloud it's hardly just one service like cloud storage. You build systems around those services by combining multiple services, right? So build something, and in this one only, right, you can see we are using 5 services here, right? And if you think about the core services, you will use some of the core services here like IAM to give access or to communicate data flow with BigQuery, etc., right, using service accounts. Then you will use VPC to run data flow, right? So these are some of the basics. That's why I covered the core services in starting. Now, once you are done with this, the final one and the last one I have is security engineer, which is again very important. And then I think the most important one you should know about is security command center and key management service. We have a lot of other services like secret manager and open source as well, like HashiCorp Vault, to store all your secrets in there. And once you're done with KMS, learn about encryption, HSM, and all these things. What is client-side encryption? What is server-side encryption? How do you use your own client-side keys, etc.? What is envelope encryption? Then you can dive into threat detection and prevention. What is zero trust security? VPC service control is another great service that we have in Google Cloud, which helps in data exfiltration, risk, etc. So you should learn about all these things. Open Policy Agent is a policy engine, governance and compliance. What does this mean? So as a security engineer, these are some of the other things that you should learn once you're done with KMS, Secret Manager, and Security Command Center. Now I listed IAM, identity and access management here as well, because this is again another important thing. I know I have covered in the core services as well, but I just wanted to list it out there because it's one of the core responsibilities of a security engineer on how they implement their IAM inside their organization. So that's all I had from all these roles perspective. Now, as promised, let me go to this particular document that I have, where you can compare all the AWS services, Azure services with Google Cloud. So for example, I talked about something called data flow, right? And we have something called AWS Kinesis data streams, right, which you can use in AWS. We have Azure Stream Analytics, right? So Cloud Composer is managed workflows for Apache Airflow. PubSub is Amazon Kinesis data streams, right? So you can find all these things here. BigQuery is Athena, or Redshift, as I mentioned. I think you can find all those comparisons here. So if you are starting out with AWS, come to this sheet after referring the video and just try to map it. Like, okay, if I talked about compute engine, okay, it is EC2 or Elastic Compute in AWS, and it is Azure Virtual Machine in Azure. So same goes for GK, it's EKS and AKS in Azure world. So this is very relevant. I can leave the link of this one, and this is a very handy sheet that you can refer to. Now, once you're done with this one, another thing I wanted to share is the whole idea of those basic services for every role is just to get you started. And I feel certifications are a good starting point. I'm saying a starting point, but you have to implement or do hands-on projects as well, right? So I am referring Associate Cloud Engineer here. But if you go to this particular thing, right, the exam guide of Associate Cloud Engineer, you will see all the core services plus some of the things that I talked about, right? Like Cloud SQL, BigQuery, load balancing, what is, GK, how to deploy it, VPCs, how to, connect with external networks, Cloud VPN, etc. This is a good starting point because you will get a feel of all those services that I talked about, right? Because I think these certifications, they cover, all those top services from all those domains that I shared. So I've created a video around, the 7 real world projects that you can build as a DevOps or a cloud engineer, which you can refer over here. But as I mentioned, certifications are just the starting point. So do check out this particular video. And so in this particular video, I just wanted to talk about, what are the top cloud services that you should learn. And I just wanted to cover all the roles as well, not just infra and DevOps. I hope you like this particular video, and share it with your friends who are interested in these kind of videos. And please hit a subscribe button if you are new to this channel and want to see more content like this. Now, if you like this video, you'll also like this video where I share how, as a DevOps or cloud engineer, you can adapt to this new AI era. So do check it out and see you on the other side. Until then, you get to live, make the most out of it. Thank you.